Mayor, members of the council. Very happy to be here tonight to present our 2016 and 17 budget and our 2016 to 2020 CIP. Pretty historic night. The mayor's already talked about it, but I'd just touch on it again. Tonight is our first ever two-year budget presentation. Awesome. So it's been, I think, a great process for our staff so far. We hope that it pays off very much for us in terms of, as the mayor said, strategic planning and how we look forward in the future on our budget proposals. So we're excited about that. With that, I'd like to issue a thanks to all the staff, all the departments and staff below our department directors and all of our budget staff and resource management staff that helped put the budget together this year. This year we used, for the first time ever, we used a combined or an integrated budget team. We used all the directors were with Susan and I on the budget team and staffed by the budget staff. So it was, again, a great process for us this year on the two-year budget process. I am going to try to hit the high spots on the budget. I hope this, I hope it doesn't take me an hour to get through it. I'm going to try to hit the high spots. We've briefed all the council on the budget. And I'll talk about this again at the very end, but you know, we have two workshops or work study sessions that are scheduled in July, but the second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday to go over the budget in much more detail. The purpose of tonight's just to kind of hit the high spots of the budget. You've seen our organizational scorecard. I'm going to go through these first slides pretty quickly. This is updated with the council's new two-year goals and the priorities of the council based on the most recent retreat. We do still have to do a little work on the organizational goals with the departments. Council guidance that you gave for our 16-17 budget: no mill levy increase, be in fiscal compliance with all the stated council goals, and continue to focus on public safety and transportation, and I think you'll see that show up later on. We do have a tradition of excellence, and we continue to win awards both regionally, nationally, and hopefully continue to meet the taxpayers' expectations. This is our most recent Direction Finder results. Again, we set a new bar. Remember we recalibrated starting in 2012. We now do the survey once a quarter, and this is our most recent annual presentation of our Direction Finder slide or Direction Finder process with our overall satisfaction index. These are we again had that presentation about a month and a half ago. This is the council's scorecard. First time, I think, since we've been doing this that we had green measures in all those measures. Recognition, some of the things that we've done. I won't go into all those. We do have a strategic culture.
Are all those on our website?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do have a strategic culture in Olathe. Some of the things that we do: biennial council strategic planning. We do that every 2 years after an election in keeping with our strategic plan. We do have our organizational scorecard, 5-year business plans for our departments, 5-year capital improvement program, 5-year forecast, performance measurements and analysis, our quarterly Direction Finder results, which also do an annual Direction Finder results driving our budget, and then again, our first ever 2-year budget process. We touched on this a couple of months ago when we started and proposed a 2-year budget. The focus, hopefully, on long-range planning and strategic plans. That we believe that where it's going to really pay off for us in the long run is forcing us to look down the road a little bit further. We do have 5-year forecasting, but there is an element every year to, boy, it's nice to have the budget put to bed, and we'll worry about it again next year. But now this forces us to worry about next year, this year. So hopefully consistent priorities from year to year. And then we'll see next year, but we really hope that the time spent on budget, particularly in that second year, is greatly diminished. And so we'll see how that works next year. But that's kind of what everybody that's doing it now across the country is telling us. This is just a little bit about the 2-year process. The city manager presents a 2-year budget. The budget for the first year is formally adopted. The second year is conditionally approved, as the mayor said. Then the second year, we would revise or adjust any revenue estimates that have come along or any major program changes, things like that we need to take care of. And then that second year would be formally adopted. that gets us to some of our economic indicators for our budget this year. This is just a slide that shows you what's happening with Johnson County consumer confidence over the last couple of years since January 2013. And as you can imagine, and most of us have experienced pretty, although it has a few dips, a pretty steady march upward since January of 2013 as we begin to come out of the recession. Same thing with the unemployment rate. This goes back to 2012. This is Olathe's unemployment rate, as you can see, as of December 14th, 3.2% unemployment. So very, very, very little unemployment in Olathe. Building permits, single-family permits, again, have continued to rise coming out of the recession, leveling off a little bit in 2014, and we're hitting about that same mark in 2015 thus far as that we had last year, maybe down a little bit from 2014 and 2015. These are our trends over the next 5 years for sales tax. Again, you see pretty flat, but a growing increase. Property tax, as you heard from Paul Welcome when he came about a month and a half ago, we're on the uphill slide of property tax values right now. So we'll see, you see that kind of rising up, and then franchise fees, again, over the, probably the last 5-6 years have been relatively flat in terms of what franchise. There's a lot of movement in that market, but it's all kind of movement within the market and not really additions to the market, if you will. Some of the major revenue drivers for our 2016-2017 budget by year, we've again, if you remember, Paul Welcome came. We always throttle back on his recommendations just a little bit on assessed valuations, primarily because of tax abatements and appeals, those two things. So we throttle back a little bit on it. We're using 6.1 in 2016 and 17.4 in 17. And of course, we won't get the 17 rate until sometime next year, but those are numbers that he thought he was pretty comfortable with that going into 2017. Sales tax increase rates, we're using 4% for 2016 and 4.5% for 2017. Currently above both of those numbers this year, and did almost 9% last year, which was a very, very strong year for us. Franchise fees about 3%, as I said, pretty flat in the growth. As total operating budget, our proposed operating budget for the general fund in 2016, $91.5 million. That represents about a 9% increase over 2015. And then our proposal for 2017 is $96.3 million. That's about a 5% increase between 16 and 17. And I will go over some of the changes that we're proposing in the budget in just a second. This is just a reflection of where we are on revenues. As again, you see this, it's been this way for years, even through the recession, about 51% sales tax, which is our number one revenue generator. Property tax next at 16, franchise fees at 13, and then transfers is our next largest, transfers from other funds at 7%. In terms of expenditures, and again, it's been this way for a good while, somewhere in the 2/3 range. For personnel services, contractual services are next highest, and those will stay for 16 and 17. Now let's talk about our highlights for what we're proposing to the City Council for your consideration on the general fund. We've got this lined out by 2016 and 2017. Very heavy, as I said in the very beginning, on transportation and public safety, primarily public safety. We're proposing to add 11 staff members in 16 and 9 staff members in 17. Of the 11 in 16, 9 of those are public safety, and of the 9 in 17, 7 of those are public safety. So what we're proposing, 3 police officers in 2016 to augment our force on the police side, and then to add 2 squads in the fire department. This continues the process that we started with last year of really moving more towards squads. They handle, right now in the fire service, about 2/3 of our calls are emergency medical calls. And this is just we believe, a quicker, more efficient, timely method of approaching those type calls with the squads. We have one now that's in partnership with the Olathe Medical Center. And these two would not be exclusive to the same type of calls that one is. That one's responding a lot to elderly folks, retirement homes, some hospital-related stuff. These would be just general calls. So one captain and 4 firefighter paramedics to do the squads. And then in the area of transportation, we're proposing one traffic control specialist in 16 to do striping work for us, as we have greatly enhanced our street maintenance program. We need 3 positions that we're proposing. One would be the striping person, and 2 others would be for project inspectors, just to keep up with inspecting the projects as they're getting built. In 17, our proposal involves 5 patrol officers. In 2017, that basically gets us one whole FTE for an entire 24/7 period. It basically takes 5 to get one whole person. So that would be one whole additional patrol officer on shift at all times. And then with Olathe West coming online in 2017, we're proposing 1 school resource officer. That's again in partnership with the school district. Same thing that we've done, 50-50 split on those costs. And then we propose to add another fire squad in 17. That would be 2 additional firefighter paramedics. And then finally, a management analyst in the city manager's office to help us with just capacity issues that we've been dealing with since the recession hit. So those are the highlights for the general fund. This is just a slide that shows, even with adding those positions kind of post 2007, before the recession, we're still at about, our employee count, total head count, is still below what it was in 2007, and our FTE per 1,000 is still 1 full FTE per 1,000 lower than it was in 2007. So we're much leaner, and I also believe much more effective as we were at that point in time. Continued focus on our priorities. 68% of these budgets, both in year 16 and 17, fund public safety and transportation related items. You've seen this chart before. It's been this way since the recession. Since we made some of the cuts that we made then, this is pretty much where we've been since then. As you know, we do fund cash out of the general fund every year for capital projects, and these represent those transfers. You will recall when the staff made the proposal to the council on the street sales tax, and the council approved that. The council wanted us to stay committed to continuing to increase our general fund cash contribution into the parks or street sales tax. And so this shows that we were at $2 million in 15. We'll be at 2.2 in 16 and proposed 2.4 in 17, and we'll continue that $200,000 increase. Our building maintenance fund is funded at the number that we currently have, $350,000 in both of those years. I will tell you, and I've briefed the council on this, our study, we did add a new building manager this year, earlier in 2015, and he's been working on updating a lot of the analysis and the studies that we have for buildings and what our positions are for buildings and maintenance schedules and all that kind of stuff. We do anticipate by the end of July to have a new number for our annual contribution for building maintenance. We weren't able to get it in time for the budget, but we'll be able to make those adjustments in the future, and we believe we'll have that number. Downtown sidewalks, we improved a lot of sidewalks in the downtown when we did the Santa Fe streetscapes. We weren't able to get to all of them. This finishes up all these sidewalk improvements that need to be made in the downtown. $300,000 in 2016, nothing in 17 will be done. And then park and facility renovation, $260,000 in 16 and $270,000 in 17 for more of the minor things that don't get covered by the park sales tax. The 2016-2017 proposed street maintenance sales tax budget, total budget you see goes from 8.6 to 11.5, and this is kind of, remember this year in 2015 we were partially funded because we didn't have a full year of sales tax revenue. So next year will be fully funded, if you will, and in 17 as well. So 11.5 in 16 and 12 million in 17. The way we're going to spend that is exactly the way we proposed when the voters voted for it. You see the major changes between this year and next year are in the full implementation will be the amount of curb replacement we'll be doing. So we're going to move from about 5,000 linear feet to 25,000 linear feet of curb replacement in 16 and 17. That'll be the bulk of the increase for the program. Program's going very, very well. We have a lot of information on the website. We've already started this year, and cones are already out there, and you'll see more before too long if the rain will ever stop. So, all right, our 2016-2017 proposed utility and fee supported funds. First of all, our water and sewer fund. We're proposing a $51.4 million budget in 16 and a $53.9 million budget in 2017. This represents increased rate increases in both of those years of 6.2% for water, 6.9% for sewer. Very close to what we did last year as a total increase. And if you recall, as we said last year, it's probably about where we're going to be for the next several years because of the infrastructure improvements that we're needing to make at our plants. Those proposed rates in terms of water, you see this chart every year. This is kind of where it puts us. Now remember, this is based on an average residential usage of 6,388 gallons per month. So that's kind of our average household. Some are more, some are less, but this is just an average number. And based on that number, that many gallons of usage, you get a rate for us in 16 of $34.02. Now that compares to everybody else's still their 15 rates, so we don't have everybody's 16 rates yet. So we'll be in a relatively the same position once we get their 16 rates. Same thing goes for sewer, a little bit right of the middle, but this is based on an average household use of 4,122 gallons a month for the average. Some are more, some are less. That would get you a rate of $36.77. And again, just a little bit right of center in terms of comparing to everybody else's 15 rates. They'll all move up and we'll stay in the same relative position. A little bit of information on where we are in terms of our SDF. You see we've been spending down SDF as we had planned for some of the capital projects we have. Fund balance is still very, very strong, meets all of our bond covenants, and then revenues and expenditures equal out in 16 and 17. The proposed changes that we are making proposing to the City Council for water and sewer in 2016, we are proposing to add 2 water production operators in 2016 and 1 maintenance crew worker for our cleaning operations and all of our pipe maintenance and programs. In 2017, we're proposing another water production operator in 2017 for our plant operations, and then also 1 maintenance worker for leak detection and 1 maintenance worker for our inflow and infiltration crew that we currently have. We've made, as you guys know, we've made presentations, a lot of progress on inflow and infiltration. It's a big way that we gain on water that's just lost. It's leaking out of pipes and nobody's paying for it. It's just leaking out. So this is a big thing. And the stormwater that's coming in also that we treat. So both of those, we've made significant improvements in that and want to continue those efforts. On solid waste, we're proposing, as you see, our budget's going down a little bit, and this is due to the expenditures of some of our funds for CNG that we've made in 15 and we'll make in 16. So we're proposing a $15.4 million budget for 16, a $14.6 million for 17. No proposed rate increases for for solid waste. As you remember, we got a very, very favorable rate on a transfer station from Deffenbaugh on that contract, and so we believe we'll be able to hold the rates constant through this proposed 2-year budget cycle. This is where we are on rates. We're at $19.35. We'll keep that steady. You see, again, we're on the low end of the rate structure compared to the other folks that are in the trash business as well. Still, I talked a little bit about having spent some fund balance on the CNG projects, and that's reflected here. Revenues and expenditures still very favorable. We are proposing to the City Council that we add one solid waste operator in our commercial division. Basically, it's a volume deal. We've got enough new business, and the commercial side is still profitable. As the council directed us several years ago, that we should either get profitable on the commercial side or get out of the business, and so we are profitable on the commercial side and need to add another person to deal with the volumes that we have. The other thing we're proposing that is to the council that we transfer 2 of our customer service representatives out of the water sewer fund into being funded by the solid waste fund. This is reflective of the calls that we get and the type of time that it takes to deal with those calls. You know, a lot of, well, it's just reflective of the volume of the calls that are happening. We think that's a more equitable way of distributing. Are you going to ask me a question?
Yes, sir. Take a good look at if there's anything else we can transfer out of water and sewer to solid waste.
Okay, all right. All right, that one we feel comfortable with. Proposed stormwater fund. Remember, this fund is a cash fund. We don't do any debt financing in it. It's all projects and staff that relates to projects for our maintenance of our stormwater system. We're proposing a $7.7 million budget in 16 and a $6.2 million budget in 17, a 2% rate increase in 16 and a no rate increase in 17. We're also proposing to the council, I think it's on this next slide, that we adopt the senior and low income discount program that we're using on water and sewer now. So basically anybody that qualifies and is receiving the senior or low income discount on water and sewer would automatically get it on stormwater. They don't have to reapply or anything like that. We're just going to give it to, they'll save about $1 a month for those people on those rates.
How old do you have to be a senior?
I don't know, but you probably don't qualify.
Thank you.
Mr. McCoy?
Mr. Wilkes, on that previous slide that you had there,
Yes, sir.
you said that in 2017 that we had no rate increase, but wouldn't that stay the same as 2016 if there's no rate increase?
Right, correct.
I mean,
Correct. So the rate, so we're proposing a 2% increase in the rate to 16,
Right.
and then no rate increase for 17, but the rate would be the same.
I think what he's saying is you go from 7.8 million to
Yeah.
6.3 million.
Yeah, wouldn't it flatten out at the 2016 proposed rate? I mean, it looks like to me we've dropped 1 million.
Well, you're doing more projects. Remember, again, this is a cash-funded project. We build up fund balance. Here, I'll show you in a second.
So that's not a revenue number.
It's not a revenue number. No, it's a project number. It's a projects number. Yeah, and again, I'll show you, this is the rate, and then here's, see the fund balance number? The little kind of purple, whatever color you want to call that. You see how much, see that goes down from 15 to 16 to 17 because we're spending down fund balance on projects.
So the
We've had
blue
a-
line west shows you that it's flat line.
Right, correct.
So the Indian Creek project would be completed by then and things of this nature? Is that where that, those dollars are going to?
Could be. I'll get to the projects in a minute. I don't know what specific projects that are out there, but yeah, this just shows, as you can see, we're spending, the red line is your expenditures, so and your blue line's your revenues, so you're spending more than you're taking in because you're doing projects. But that's what this fund does. Okay. 6, here we go, 6 planned projects receiving $15 million and 0.3 in SMAC funding. So remember, in Stormwater Fund, we always leverage SMAC funds, and we've been very, very fortunate the last, this year even, you know, there are a lot of cities that are not being able to do all their, it's kind of like streets were several years ago. A lot of cities not being able to spend their SMAC money, and so we've had projects that have been able to pick up some of that slack and get some of those excess funds. So 6 projects receiving 15 million, and 3 ongoing projects receiving 7.2 million in SMAC funds. So again, 22 million bucks, $22 million in SMAC funds, kind of leveraged against the 5 or 6 million bucks that we're spending in 16. And then utilize over $1 million in 2016 and 17 for pipe replacement, repairing box inlet, curb inlet boxes, fixing sinks holes, channel improvements, and concrete channel replacement work. So just, again, continuing maintenance of the stormwater program. This fund is just something that we have to continue to do to take care of the stormwater issues, handling of stormwater. Recreation Fund, we are proposing a 2016 budget of 5.5 million and a 2017 budget of 5.8 million. The highlights of our proposal to the City Council we've included the cemetery fund in this as well. In 2016, in partnership, all these, remember, are fee-based. This is a fee-based program. There's no tax dollars coming into this fund. It's all paid for by the people that participate in our programs, whether that be the community center or playing baseball, soccer, or whatever. And so all these are fee-supported
As you say.
positions. So the first one we're proposing is in partnership with the Athletic Association, recreation maintenance worker for Olathe Youth Baseball. And then we're proposing 3 recreation specialists based on demands in certain areas. One would be our youth enrichment program, which is all of our camps, youth camps. Second would be youth sports, and then third would be in our rentals and facilities, which we're actually growing so much that we need to add another position to kind of help us with the rental of all those properties that we have. And then we're also proposing for our cemetery, we're proposing a part-time 20-hour person to help us really drive business out at the cemetery. We if you remember, well, that's really what it's.
Are we driving them in, or are we driving them out?
We're trying to sell plots. How about
I
that?
think you drive them in.
I think we're driving them
drive 'em
in.
in.
I don't think we're driving them out.
Yeah.
I think
They
people
come
are
in, they
dying to
don't
get
go
in.
out.
Then we get 2 for 1 sale?
If you guys remember, we had a presentation several months ago from Brian Nigels, talked about all the plots that we've
That's when we
added.
decided to stay on the east side and not cross to the west.
Correct?
Right.
Right, and we've added a lot of stuff right there around the building. Well, Brian's the only guy that we have out there, and he tends to not necessarily be presentable when people come to talk about plots.
The
And
need.
so we thought that might be a good idea from a sales and marketing standpoint to get a part-time person out there that can have open office hours and work with families in a very special time for those families. So. Then 2017, we're proposing to add a person for our Olathe Girls Softball program in partnership with Olathe Girls Softball, and then 1 more recreation specialist for adult athletics, which is also a very growing program that we have in Parks and Recreation. Library, we're proposing a $4.8 million budget in 2016, 4.9 in 17. The highlights, 2 staff members, 1 librarian, and 1 web designer and programmer in 2016. Hosting some more drop-in programs and development space for these kind of maker activities, 3D printers, things like that kind of stuff. And then create a package topical information for our customers. So those are the proposals, highlights for the library. Now we go to our 2016-2020 proposed capital improvement plan. Our proposed CIP going from $244.3 million to $300.4 million. These are our current debt service fund projects. These are all the ones that were included in our 2015 to 2019 proposed CIP. No real changes other than they kind of moved down. these are our new ones. These are the new ones that we proposed. I'll go over these real briefly. I-35 and 119th Street Interchange Improvement Study, $1.5 million. You guys just approved the Tiger Grant, I think it was last time or 2 times ago, one of the two, to apply for that. This would be the study money for that. K7 Highway, Santa Fe to Old 56. Those are some improvements to that area, $3.6 million. Just $100,000 each year to help us with replacement and repair for our ATMS system, keep it up to standards. 143rd at Merlin and 143rd at Black Bob, both of those intersection improvements, turn lane additions. $500,000 in there every year for traffic signals, both either new signals and or replacement issues. This is something that we have not been able to do since the recession, so that we're putting back in. Phase 2 of the police headquarters expansion out there in 2020. I think it's probably been 4, 5, 6 years since we built the phase 1. By the time we get this, it'll be at about 10 years, and so wanted to get this on the table for us. And then a city storage facility. This basically is a place where we can keep, we have a good bit of stuff right now that's vehicle equipment, larger equipment, our mobile command center for the police department, some other things that don't really have a home and need a home to keep them out of the elements, and this would provide that for us. So the new debt total for each year you see down there on the bottom, and then the total debt for each year is outlined there. For water and sewer, these are our projects. The way we've got them, this is the same way we presented them last year. If you recall, the council wanted some delineation between maintenance and capacity and so forth. So the blue projects, mostly at the top, are all capacity additions, and those all have to do with our water system, and actually they all have to do with Collector Well 5 and the addition of Collector Well 5. So anything green is a maintenance related project, and then if it's kind of, I'm going to call that orange, if it's orange, then it's both a maintenance and a capacity project. The new ones on the project are highlighted with new in parentheses and kind of bold, and I'll go over those real briefly. Everything else that doesn't have new was done last year. It's just moved a year forward. The lift station replacements, that's just, there are several lift stations. They're outlined in the CIP, and we'll go over those in much more detail, replacing some of our older ones. Johnson County wastewater metering vault improvement, Black Bob 12-inch water line replacement, North Parker sanitary sewer, 119th Street water transmission improvement, Black Bob water line upsizing, the elevated storage tank at 151st and Merlin, and remote facilities improvements, and then dresser hydrant replacement. So those are all things that are new and having been added to the CIP, and once we go into the work session, we'll go into much more detail on those projects. Stormwater, same thing. If they're in bold and they have new, those are new projects. And again, I just reiterate, these are all cash projects, no debt service. In this, we fund them as we're able to get to them, and we do try to combine it with SMAC dollars. And they are, all the decisions that are made on our projects are based on the engineering studies that we did several years ago about flooding issues and or maintenance issues that need to be done. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new projects. And let's see, you asked me, Councilmember McCoy, about is it Indian Creek? Indian Creek, 139th and Brockwood Court would start in 2016.
Call Wes and you get things done.
Yeah.
Good job, Wes.
Look at that.
Try.
Solid waste, we have 2 projects that, the same 2 projects that have been on there for several years. Our CNG fueling station, which we're doing in partnership with Johnson County, which should wrap up this year and into next year. And then our transfer station renovations, which will start in 2017 and go for several years. Then the new project on there is covered storage, the same thing. We're going to build some storage for all of our sanitation trucks, which right now are under nothing. They're just kind of out there and all year long. So this would build some cover for them. These are our park sales tax. Nothing really new on here because this has not been approved. It was part of our park sales tax project. This is listed out exactly the way it was as we presented it to the voters. We'll have a lot more conversation about all these projects as we go forward with the council approving, whether it's a master plan or specific project or whatever, as we go forward with the council. And we always bring those to you guys for your approval. That brings us to the budget calendar. July 7th is our public outreach opportunity. We're going to do a different thing. It's going to be a social media event. So on July 14th, we'll do our first budget workshop. We'll discuss our fund budgets, our CIP, and our fee resolution. On the 28th, we have a second scheduled budget workshop in case we need that. On August the 4th, we'll do our official public hearing, state mandated 2016-2017 proposed budget and the 2016 to 2020 CIP, and then hopefully adopt on the 18th of August and both the 2016-2017 budget, the 2016 to 2020 CIP, and the 2016 to 17 fee resolution.